First of 3 days of action here at this wonderful circuit in the heart of the Ardennes Forest, and we've got 45 minutes of action coming up. The last chance for the drivers and the teams to get things set ready for tomorrow's qualifying session in the morning, and the first of two races coming up tomorrow afternoon, of course. But what will the conditions be like? You look at the gauge and it says track temperature 22 degrees, air temperature 16.7 degrees. The track is dry. Sounds pretty straightforward, but you saw from the wide shot there just before we came to the onboard at Esteban Moot that we have got some big black threatening clouds in the sky. 47% chance of rain during the next hour, and tomorrow just a 94% chance of rain. So there is almost certainly going to be some wet weather action during the course of the weekend. Sunday might be a bit of both, but it looks a bit more positive on Sunday. But speaking to Maximilian Gutz, the reigning champion after free practice one down in the pit lane, he said, I don't think many of us were expecting it to be a dry free practice one, but that's the way it turned out to be, apart from a sprinkling of rain in the final 4 minutes of the session. So welcome along. Thanks for joining us to watch this coverage of free practice 2, and cars getting ready to head out. And one of the drivers that's been making progress up the table of late in terms of points scored, Kelvin van der Linde, gives us a little wave there, and he and the AB Sportsline team give us a great track guide that I was having a look at earlier, and using the simulator back at base, Kelvin talking us around a lap of this wonderful 7-kilometre long circuit. My name's Chris Hartley. I'm going to talk you through the action in this second free practice session and all the action on Saturday and Sunday. As I look out of the commentary box just above the pit lane, it is as sunny as it's been all day long, really, but all around the patches of blue sky, there are some big rolling clouds coming in. So I think they'll be keen to get out and get some dry running in as quickly as they can. The driver that was quickest in the first free practice session was Laurens Vanthoor, one of the home drivers at the Belgium for the SSR Performance Porsche squad, with a time of 2 minutes 17.811 seconds. He was just over a tenth quicker than Thomas Preining in the Kuss Team Bernhard Porsche. He did a 2:17.935, and the driver second in the championship, Mirko Bortolotti, in the Grasser Racing Team Lamborghini Huracan, also was very close to Laurens Vanthoor's time with a 2:17.940, just over a tenth away from the fastest time, and only 5 thousandths of a second behind Thomas Preining. Kelvin van der Linde, who we've seen, was fourth quickest. Michael Grenier was fifth, and Dennis Olsen was sixth quickest. There at the front of the shot, you can see the number 31 Schubert Motorsport BMW of the championship leader, Sheldon van der Linde. Last time DTM came here was in 2020. It was the first round of the pandemic-affected season. I had to wait until the middle of August for the season to start that year. Very hot conditions and, of course, different cars, because that was the last season of Class 1, now running GT3 spec cars. The luckless Felipe Fraga, who has had pretty much everything thrown at him so far this year, but he's got to keep his chin up, keep on focusing. We know he's quick. We know the car is quick. At some point, the luck has got to change. He's had only 2 finishes this year, but one of them was a win and one of them was a second place finish. The Ferraris weren't showing any out-and-out single lap pace in the first free practice session. They're a little way down the board, with Nick Cassidy coming home 19th and Felipe Fraga in 21st. But again, it was close. There was just 9 tenths of a second between the top 19 cars in the session. And when you bear in mind that this lap, in terms of the time it takes to go around it for these cars, is a good 30 seconds or so longer than most laps, to have 19 cars covered by less than a second was pretty impressive. Mirko Bortolotti then in need of a great weekend here to get back on track. After being so consistent for the first part of the season, picking up podiums and points all the time, leading the championship, he walked away from the Nürburgring 2 weeks ago with 0 points. But he was quick this morning, and he will remain focused on the task ahead to try and close the 21-point gap at the top of the championship table to Sheldon van der Linde. Right, the 45-minute session gets underway, and once again it is Laurens Vanthoor that leads them out, followed by Maximilian Buch, Lucas Auer, René Rast, and there Sheldon van der Linde, his teammate Philipp Eng, and David Schumacher. Maro Engel there in the 88 Mercedes was under investigation for speeding in the pit lane in free practice 1, but no further action has been taken, so there's no fine there, and it was found to be within the limits. But one thing that was not within the limits was the way through turn 17, which is at the end of the lap, the famous left-hander at Blanchimont, hugely quick, flat-out corner. And we had 14 different drivers losing lap times because of track limits through there, all of them at turn 17. Some of the drivers had more than one offence with a couple of other corners that they were deemed to have exceeded track limits, but turn 17, the one that caught every single one of them out, 14 drivers, all of them at turn 17. And the rules state in the information pack which goes out from the DTM to the teams and the drivers at the start of the weekend. It gives you a guide of what's expected at each corner in terms of track limits. At turn 17 they have to stay to the left side of the curb, and obviously something they weren't able to do. Drivers must keep the left side tyres on the curb. Failure to do this will result in the lap time being deleted. So you can put 2 wheels on the curb, but the left hand side has to be on the curb and not beyond. In other words, if all 4 wheels are beyond the curb, that's exceeding track limits where there's a curb. Where there's white lines and no curb, you have to stay within the white lines that mark out the edge of the circuit. So Kelvin van der Linde trying to fight his way through a bit of traffic here as they're all released together to try and find a bit of track space. You can see the menacing clouds out through there. You can see, and he's about to sneak up the inside of David Schumacher. A few shenanigans going on in the garage with a social media film crew following Maximilian Gutz down at Team Winward. And he was up to something. He was up to no good at Nürburgring, where he managed to put Maro Engel's birthday cake actually in his face.
René pace before was a 19.8, and you are doing the same sequences as him. You are going to do around 12 laps. Copy.
And earlier on, after free practice 1, he was putting Maximilian Gutz stickers all over David Schumacher's car. Apparently David started this a few rounds ago, so good team spirit, no doubt, at Team Winward, but he's becoming the joker of the pit lane, the trickster of DTM, Maximilian Gutz, always with a smile on his face. He said that team, Schumacher, Auer and Gutz, have been working together because I haven't got that much data around this circuit as a team, so they said we were trying different things to get to the point quicker, in terms of trying different ride heights, trying different rear wing settings, and each of the drivers tried something slightly different, but Maximilian Gutz was pretty happy with the way it went. Right, let's have a look at this lap then. You've gone over Radion. You're going down the Kemmel Straight now at about 265 kilometres an hour with Kelvin van der Linde there in the number 3 Audi. And at the end of that straight, you brake pretty hard for Lecombe. Brake where that curb starts, basically. That's the braking point. Kelvin van der Linde says you lose a lot of curb through that next chicane because there's some pretty swift direction changes. Right, so we know that the fastest lap earlier on in free practice 1 was a 2 minute 17.8. The lap is divided into 3 sectors. The middle sector is the longest. That's almost half the lap. And in terms of sector times, the fastest sector 1 time this morning was 39.2 seconds. The fastest sector 2 time was 62.1 seconds. And the fastest sector 3 time was 35.9 seconds. Sheldon van der Linde was the best driver in terms of time in sector 1. Michael Grenier was quickest in the middle sector, and Sheldon was quickest in the 3rd sector. But despite being quickest in 2 of the 3 sectors, he was down in the middle of the lap, which is why he was a little bit down the overall leaderboard, despite a very good start and end to the lap. There is Lucas Auer then, who has put in a good middle sector, 62.7 early doors. It's still about 6/10 away from what we saw earlier on in free practice 1, and he's going to be doing a 2:18 here. Yeah, 2:18.74 seconds. It's a pretty decent lap this early on. Sheldon van der Linde again losing out in the middle sector, it seems. So the first sector takes you to the ends of the Kemmel Straight. The second sector takes in everything between the end of the Kemmel Straight all the way to the exit to Stavelot, and the third sector. So it's a busy sector, that. and then it's the quick section out through the forest at sector 3. So you've got to get that middle sector absolutely right. And that looks where at the moment Sheldon losing out a little bit. With some longer runs here. We heard on the team radio that Kelvin van der Linde is looking at doing 12-lap run here to see how things hold up and what the tyres' reaction is to the track conditions over a longer run. And can then begin to work out when would be the best time to come and do the mandatory pit stop in the race once they know what the tyre degradation will be like around here. There's Thomas Preining then, absolutely flying in his first season of the DTM, the young Austrian, and a winner at the Norris Ring. He really sort of moved up in pace when we got to Imola, and very close to a podium finish there. Just missed out in the end in the late stages to Mirko Bortolotti, finished 4th. They got the win at the Norris Ring, and he's been punching up there in qualifying sessions and up there in the points in races ever since. Unlucky in race 1 at the Nürburgring, where he shot up from 10th to 4th in the early stages, only to then suffer splitter damage and have to retire the Porsche. But a good combination that of a young driver with a still relatively young but also very experienced team boss in Timo Bernhard, the multiple Nürburgring 24-hour winner and Le Mans winner. Nico Müller, who was in the top 10 in free practice 1 and was a double winner here last time the DTM came to Spa in 2020, goes over the line and goes fastest with a 2 minutes 18.47 second lap. Philipp Eng is second, Sheldon van der Linde is third, so the two Schubert Motorsport BMWs very evenly matched, only 18 thousandths of a second between the two teammates. They've both done 2:18.6s. Thomas Preining we've seen going well, he's 4th at the moment, Lucas Auer 5th, Lawrence Van Tour quickest in the first free practice session, currently in 6th place. Most of them out on track. In fact, they're all on track because Alessio De Leda has just left the pit lane. Right, Lucas Auer now to the top of the times, 2:18.418, half a tenth quicker than Nico Müller. What can Sheldon van der Linde do on this lap? It's a 2:19.3, which is 7 tenths down on his previous best lap. But looking at potentially longer runs here. Well, a few drivers doing longer runs. Lots of drivers are out there having busy free practice 1 really, with lots of laps run, but not necessarily all in succession. There were sort of a few drivers that did 5 or 6 lap runs, but nothing any longer than that really. But I think in this one they will do that. And I think what they're almost doing is looking ahead 2 days now to Sunday, where it might be dry for the race. And tomorrow, everybody's convinced it's going to be wet and rainy. So this is then looking like, okay, we don't necessarily need to set the cars up as much as normal for qualifying today, because qualifying is almost certainly going to be wet tomorrow. So what we're doing here on dry track, on slick tyres, not really going to help us tomorrow. But what we can do is get set for Sunday. And the race, which could be dry, potentially. Forecast is definitely changeable. There is potential for rain, but not as much as the forecast for tomorrow. It's all doom and gloom tomorrow in terms of wet weather running. Although, make no bones about it, there'll be lots of drivers rubbing their hands, delighted and looking forward to wet weather racing. Could give us some really interesting results. We've already had mixed season, haven't we, with 8 different race winners from the 10 rounds so far. Right, Nico Müller is on course to get back to the top of the timesheet here. 62.5, the absolute best middle sector. It looked pretty good through the chicane. He goes over the line, and it is a 2:18.16. So Müller back to the top of the times, and by a healthy margin. Quarter of a second clear of Lucas Auer. Dennis Olsen has come up to 3rd. Philipp Eng is 4th. You're on board with Laurens Van Tour then into the chicane. He went through to start another lap. You've got to get a good exit here. Accelerating out, it's a first gear sequence of corners, up to 2nd, 3rd, 4th gear over the line. You won't quite get to 5th gear before he then hits the brakes down into turn 1 at La Source. Lucas Auer, having set the 2nd best time of the session so far, has just gone into the pits. David Schumacher, now Sheldon van der Linde, Esteban Moot and Felipe Fraga are in the pits. Everybody else is on the track, including René Rast there going through the number 33 Team Rosberg Audi. There's the exit to the chicane, also known as the bus stop chicane, because it was part of a public road. This whole circuit was built on public roads, but there actually used to be a bus stop there, hence the nickname bus stop chicane. And past the newer pit lane and pit buildings, the circuit which has undergone development and improvements, numerous improvements over the last 10 or 15 years. and then they go out past the original pit lane and pit garages, and then down towards the wonderful Eau Rouge, climbing up then to the top of that hill and Radion. Well, this hairpin is a case of not being over ambitious into the corner. You don't want to be too late on the brakes here, because it's all about the exit, because you're then flat out really until you get to the end of the Camel Straight. It's a long run without touching the brakes, so the exit from the La Source hairpin is way more important than the entrance to it. That said, if it's somebody on your tail, you don't want to invite them to have a stab up the inside when you're in the race. Right, more and more popping into the pits now. More lap time is being deleted. They've learned their lesson a little bit, but still 5 or 6 of them have had lap times deleted. Turn 17 and Blanchimont, most of them, and a couple at turn 3, which is Eau Rouge up to Radion. Nico Muller then comes in. 2 minutes 18.165 seconds is his best lap, with a 0.253 second advantage over Lucas Auer, who's only 27 thousandths clear of Dennis Olsen, the third. Philippe Eng, fourth, is on track. But Muller and Auer are into the pits. Sheldon van der Linde, Maximilian Goetz, who's come up to 6th, and Thomas Preining, who's 7th. They're all in the pits. And then you're looking at Philippe Eng, who looked really quick in the second race at the Nürburgring and was very unlucky, I think, not to pick up a really good result there. Circumstances conspired against him. The safety car couldn't pit initially because you can't double stack in the pits as a rule this year. So as a teammate to the championship leader, he had to play second fiddle to him. Sheldon had to be brought in first. He had to go a lap behind the safety car. That put him back in the pack, and on the restart he got involved in contact which put him out of the race. Got back to the pits and slammed the car door shut, because he knew he was quick enough at least to be on the podium, I think, in that second race at the Nürburgring, and maybe even to win it. Marco Wittmann coming into the pits. At the moment, he's 8th with 2:18.791. Got 9 tenths covering the top 10 in the session. As into La Source goes David Schumacher, and Dennis Olsen on a good lap. Here he is, the Norwegian, 39.55 seconds through that first sector, but he's down a bit in the middle sector, the big sector, with 63.61. How far is he behind Muller? He's nearly 3 tenths he's got to try and make up, so he needs a really good final sector here if he's to move himself up ahead of Muller and Auer, but it's possible as he heads down towards the chicane in that 520 horsepower 4-litre flat 6 Porsche. Takes the curbs but doesn't complete the lap. Goes into the pits, the former Porsche Carrera Cup champion of Germany, runner-up in the Porsche Super Cup in 2017 to Michael Ammermuller, somebody else that we've seen in the DTM last year at the Nürburgring. Made the debut for Porsche in the championship with a guest spot last year in the middle of the 2021 season. Right then, lots of eyes are going to be on the driver of the number 63 Lamborghini this weekend, Mirko Bortolotti. What can he do to recover from the huge disappointment last time out of the Nürburgring? He's 21st at the moment. You're on board with Laurent Van Tour, and that's the Blanchimont curb we've been talking about, where if they put all 4 wheels over it, they lose the lap time. Down to first, thud the curbs as he makes his way through the chicane, completes 1 lap, and will start the next up to 4th gear then. And it'll be back down to first for Lecomte. Brake at around about the 100-metre board into La Source. Down to first gear. Get early on the power now, and don't even think about touching the brakes until you get to the end of the Camel Straight, once you've gone through Eau Rouge and Radion. There's Maximilian Buch in the Mook Motorsport Mercedes. The only one which uses the Scheffler Paragon fly-by-wire steering system in the grid this year. Buch, who was on the podium in the final round at the Norris Ring last year, still looking to reenact that excellent result that he got back in the final throes of what was a dramatic 2021 season. But a good driver, somebody else that's been here in GT racing outside of the DTM before as well, Maximilian Buch, as Sparrow Engel comes into the pits, currently in 16th place. Just about 1/3 of the session done now. Worth noting as well that this weekend, slightly shorter races for the DTM. There'll be 50 minutes plus 1 lap instead of the usual 55 minutes plus 1 lap, so slightly shorter in terms of time. The other thing to bear in mind is that if you try to get data on certain corners, you get to run the corners less often than around a shorter circuit in these practice sessions because it's such a long lap. Well over 2 minutes. Oh, Mirko Bortolotti. I'm not sure he stayed within the track limits there. If he did, it was just about, because he's on the limit through Blanchimont. There he is, looking calm as you like. He's a bit deep into the first part of the chicane though. Had a bit too much speed there. That will compromise his exit line. Gets on the gas, accelerates up through the gears now, goes over the line. Bortolotti last time a 2:21.4, so it wasn't a particularly quick lap, but he's looking to push up now. Down to first gear, through La Source, get on the power early, up through the gears. It'll be fifth gear by the time he gets to Eau Rouge at the foot of this very steep descent. Look how close to the pit wall he goes. And hang on to your hats, everybody, through Eau Rouge we go. That sounded flat out to me. Asked Maximilian Gutz, can you go flat out through there? He said, yeah, if the car is right. Qualifying conditions, good tyres, you can do it. I didn't do it in free practice one, he said, but Lucas Auer did. But Schelvin van der Linde said, it is just on the edge to go through there flat out. Right, down through the gears, second gear and through Le Comte. Use the curbs, out through Malmedy. And then downhill, you begin to descend into Rivage, or Bruxelles as it's also known. Fourth gear down to second. The exit's tricky here. It's a bit off camber. Out through Speaker's Corner. Hold off on the throttle. And then you race down towards one of the quickest corners of the lap at Pouhon. He'll be up to fifth gear. He'll only drop one gear to fourth for this one. Hug the inside curb. To the right. Drag it back as much as you can to the left. Exit there. And then down towards the third gear. Right-left sequence at Le Fan. Hold it to the right so you get the best line into the left. And that's the busiest part of the lap through that second sector. Great onboard shots then with Mirko Bortolotti, the Italian driver, second in the championship standings at the moment, with a massive weekend ahead. And this is the driver. He's trying to catch up in the championship table. Sheldon van der Linde, 39.34 through the first sector. That's the absolute best we've had in this session, but it's still a tenth down on the absolute best first sector from free practice one, which was a 39.219 set by Sheldon himself. But it's the middle sector where he's been, well, he was losing out in free practice one. Much better in this session though. He's in fifth place currently. So Nico Muller has done the absolute best second sector time so far, a 62.5. And he was quickest in the final sector, the Swiss, as well, the 36.009. So Sheldon van der Linde coming towards the end of the second sector. And no traffic that's going to get in his way. It's all looking nice and neat. Certainly a very, very good start to the lap. 63.18. So he's about 6 tenths down in that middle sector. Can he make any of that up at the end? Currently his best lap's a 2:18.667. He's half a second down on Nico Muller's absolute best time of the session. Here through Blanchimont, kept the wheels on the curb, so he's all right there for track limits. Drags it back across to the left. You brake offline here because it's very bumpy apparently on the way into the corner, and then whacks the curbs, goes right then left, accelerates out towards the light. It's going to be probably his best lap of the session. Will it move him up from fifth place? Yep, but only one place, up to fourth. Ahead of his teammate though now, Philipp Eng. So 2:18.537. That was a tenth and a half quicker than his previous best. Nicely done, Sheldon van der Linde. Right then, here is Esteban Moot, another of the home racers. Onboard shots with him this weekend. The overtaker, as he became known last year. Trying not to go too deep into that corner, but actually he's pulling off anyway and headed for the pits with that special art livery this weekend that he is carrying on the car. And Felipe Fraga is another of our onboard camera operators this weekend. He's on for a personal best lap here, but how will it put him in the overall rankings? 13th, 2 minutes 19.94. So was his best lap in free practice one, a 2:18.994. Still not going as quick as he was. Look at that though, with Lucas Auer, absolute best middle sector, but he was about half a second down in the first sector. Overall, though, it's a good lap. Second place, 2:18.25, but Sheldon van der Linde That's the absolute best first sector of this session, a 39.24. It's only 0.05 of a second away from the best sector time he set in sector 1 in free practice 1. But he just needs to find a bit of pace somewhere that he's losing at in the middle of the lap. 0.6 down in the middle of that, but he's quicker at the start and the end of the lap. Of course, setting the car up is all about compromise. You can't have a car that's perfect for every corner. It's about getting the best overall balance. Give a bit of speed up at one part of the course if it is more than made up for somewhere else around the lap. Well, 63 dead. It's a fraction quicker than his previous lap through that sector. 10th up, and he's a 10th up on the other first sector as well. So if this last run goes according to plan through Blanchimont and down towards the chicane, he might be about to improve again here and maybe get himself up into the top 3. On the brakes, look at those clouds. It's bright sunshine at the moment, but I'm not sure it's going to last too much longer. Right, that all looked pretty good. Gets on the gas, accelerates up to 120 kilometres an hour as he goes over the start-finish line. And the lap time was a 2:18.545. How about that for consistency? That is 0.08 of a second slower than the lap before. 0.08 of a second, around a 2 minutes, 18-second lap. That is incredible consistency from the championship leader. And he looks so smooth, doesn't he? Oh, fantastic shot that, as they whip past the pit wall and down towards Eau Rouge and up over Radion. And there you can see the height gain, just that one corner. Suddenly that pit wall that you just saw the cars flying past is way down in the distance. Lucas Auer, personal best first sector, but he's 0.3 down on the best first sector time that we've had so far. As Arjun Maini got into the top 10 in free practice 1, coming through now in the Hat Racing Mercedes, having been on the podium with the team at Hockenheim last weekend. Racing in the GT Challenge, and we've also had another, it's not personal best, but another really good first sector from Sheldon, like 39.29. It's only 0.05 down on his previous personal best. So it might not light up green for personal best or purple for absolute best, but it's a really, really good first sector again for Sheldon. Dennis Olsen, meanwhile, but his best lap of the session in, goes second, 2:18.249. That's only 0.84 of a second behind Nico Muller, and he's 0.01 of a second quicker than Lucas Auer in third place. Ridiculously close again here in the DTM. It's only free practice. They're going to get quicker later in the weekend. I was going to say they're going to get quicker tomorrow in qualifying, but probably won't have slick tyres on if the weather forecast is right. But when they are in qualifying trim with new tyres on and light fuel loads, you know, even quicker than this if we get to that point, maybe on Sunday, maybe. So Sheldon, super consistent. Again, this lap's going to almost be the same as the 2 before, isn't it? Look, 39.29. So why make it 0.07 down on the previous lap so far? Nothing. He's done a 2:18.537, 2:18.545. Wouldn't be surprised if this is 2:18.5 as well, the way he's going. As, let's see, goes over the line. It's even better, 2:18.34. Really good lap. That's 3 quick laps, and that's the best of them so far. So personal best, not quite enough to put him into the top 3, but now you've got the top 4 covered by 99,000ths of a second. Make for a good qualifying session this, but it's only free practice 2. Well, it's amazing how close they are on such a long lap, really. At the top of the times, Muller, Olsen, Auer, and Sheldon van der Linde, almost inseparable. 4 cars covered by 99,000ths of a second. Philipp Eng is in the pits, currently 5th quickest. Maximilian Gutz in 6th. Thomas Preining 7th. Marco Wittmann 8th. René Rast 9th. And Lawrence van Tour is in 10th place. We've got 9 drivers in the 2-minute 18s. In free practice 1, we had a lot more, didn't we? We had 20 drivers in the 2:18s in free practice 1. Dev Gore, personal best first sector, but that is already 6 or 7 tenths down on the best first sector we've seen. You're watching Marco Wittmann at the moment, who is coming towards the end of his lap, currently in 9th place with a 2:18.791. And this is going to be probably a bit slower than that, I think, unless he's had a really good end to the lap. It's not too bad though. Let's have a look what he does. Comes through 2:18.99. Well, that's another consistent driver, because that's within a few thousandths of the lap before as well. Fairly quiet track at the moment. We've got 3, 6, 9, 10 cars in the pits and a couple of cars on an out lap. So if you want clear track ahead, now's the time to do it. Thomas Preining's already set a personal best. First sector goes through the shot. You've got Kelvin van der Linde just behind him on track in the background as well. 63.29. So 3/10 down in the first sector, 3/10 down in the second sector. So this is, again, probably not quite going to match his best lap. It'll be a high 2:18, I think. Whereas his best is a 2:18.7. That Porsche does look quick, though, doesn't it, as it comes out through Blanchimont. Twitches a bit under braking on the way into chicane. Doesn't go too deep into the corner, so he can get on the power early coming out. It's a nice exit for Tommy Preining, and the young Austrian ends up with what? A 2:18.94. So that is 2/10 slower than his personal best, and he's still in 8th place. Laurens Vanthoor, though, has just done the absolute best middle sector, 62.24 seconds. Wasn't that quick through the first sector, though. Absolutely flat out for ages down through here. Eventually, just before you get to the 100-metre board, they break. They go from 6th down to 1st. And he wrestles the Porsche out of the corner up to 2nd, 3rd, 4th gear. Won't quite get to 5th, I don't think. They have to back off again and slows the car down. But that was enough, that lap, to put him to the top of the times with a 2:18.072. Fastest in free practice 1, fastest in free practice 2, with just under 18 minutes to go. And he's now 93 thousandths of a second up on Nico Muller's time. Olsen, Auer and Sheldon van der Linde all in the pits, so 3rd, 4th and 5th. And then just hang on. Look at the above the 6th gear, the speed there is shown 256, 57, 58 kilometres an hour, touches 260 just before he has to hit the brakes and drop down through the gears to 2nd place, to 2nd gear rather. The fastest speed trap time down the Kemmel Straight in free practice 1 was, well, they're all BMWs. The BMWs were all really quick in a straight line. Doesn't make for the quickest lap necessarily, but we had Sheldon van der Linde through the speed trap at 268.7 kilometres an hour, which is almost 9 kilometres an hour quicker than the speed you've just seen from this Porsche. And then Esteban Moot, 267.3, was 2nd through the speed trap. Philip Eng, 266.7, and Marco Wittmann, 265.4. So 4 BMWs sending the fastest speed trap times. Then the 2 Mercedes of Stolz and Buch. The quickest Audi was René Rast with a 264.1, which is 4.5 kilometres down top speed on Sheldon van der Linde. More lap times have been deleted for track limits. One of them for Nick Cassidy, and the other for Rolf Inischen. So Rolf Inischen, the latest to succumb to track limits, both at turn 17. Felipe Frogger's done something slightly different in that he's had a lap disallowed for track limits at turn 3, which a couple of them have had, but most of them is Blanchimont as their downfall. Vanthoor kept 2 wheels on the curb there, though, so this lap should be fine. So easy to run wide there, though. Carries so much speed. And that's his run complete. He bows for the pits. So the quickest car out there last time around, apart from Vanthoor, was Nico Muller, just did a 2:19.9. I take it back, Max Buch did a 2:19.6. So too has Lucas Stolz gone through with a 2:19.6. Well, those two and Muller both going relatively quick, and puncture right rear for Nico Muller. Look, that's not a good sign, is it, this early in the weekend? So right rear puncture for Nico Muller. Could be for any number of reasons. It could be some debris on the circuit that somebody's dragged back on, a bit of body work, something dragged off from a gravel trap, or it might be something else. But he is limping back. I mean, just put in a pretty good lap the lap before. So Nico Muller bringing the Team Rosberg Audi back with only 3 working tyres at the moment. And they'll look into that and try and figure out exactly what it was that caused it.
Okay, Nico, box. We drive back to the garage.
So no reference to the radio from either the driver or the team as to what might have caused that. It's better in a way if it's debris, then you've got nothing to worry about in terms of the way you've set the car up. It's just one of those things, it's bad luck. If it's gone on its own, that's more of a worry, something they will need to look into. Not been out for that many laps as well. He'd done a longer run coming to the pits. He'd not been out for maybe a couple of laps, I think. So they will replace the right rear. Won't have to count that towards their allocation of tyres, because it's genuinely damaged, of course, that one. This year, slight change to the rules in terms of the sets of tyres that you have after your first race of the season. You get 4 sets of tyres, 4 sets of new tyres, which have to last 2 free practice sessions, 2 qualifying sessions, and 2 races. So it's gone up a bit. It was only 3 sets last year, but it's 4 now. But you have got to use one of those in free practice. So actually, once you get to the race weekend, you've only got 3 sets of new tyres to last on Saturday and Sunday. Those 4 sessions, 2 qualifying, 2 races. So you can't come in, make a pit stop. You can't have fresh tyres for all 4 portions of the races. The first part of race 1, come in, change tyres, the mandatory stop. Somewhere you're going to have to use older tyres. The problem was kind of the other way around at the Nürburgring, because they'd had that qualifying cancellation. Everything was cancelled until 5:15, and they hadn't got a chance to bed the tyres in, so going out into an already greasy track with absolutely shiny new slick tyres that hadn't even been bedded in. They're super slippy weather like this, so rock hard, shiny surfaces, and it was a real struggle for the drivers going out on those tyres straight into a race. You normally want to just scrub them in a little bit before you go out during either practice or qualifying. But, well, wet tyres might be a thing. We have Joker tyres in DTM, so each car is assigned a maximum of 2 additional new dry tyres, or Joker tyres, throughout the entire season. Each is a replacement for a damaged tyre. A damaged tyre has to be presented to the chief scrutineer or their representative before being replaced, just to confirm it is a genuine damaged tyre has been caused by something on track or a failure. So that's a conversation that will go on. Lap time deleted for Kelvin van der Linde at Blanchimont. They are finding the limits, which is part of what you do on practice day anyway. Find those limits. Talking about this with a colleague a few weeks ago, talking about the great Michael Schumacher, and how he quite often would have a couple of moments on a Friday on a Grand Prix weekend and spin and go off in the gravel, and you think, oh, he's about to crack, he's not going to have a great weekend, he might get beaten. But it was just him finding the limits, and then just reeled it back in a little bit for qualifying and race day, and genuinely and often blew everybody away. Replay then of the moment the puncture came to light on the Team Rosberg Audi of double DTM Championship runner-up Nico Müller. There, the right rear, you can see the smoke coming from it with the air having deflated from the tyre. But luckily, he was in a part of the course where he was able to keep it on the road and bring it back. And the curb's pretty sharp here as well, so that's another reason that you could get a puncture, because they do have to attack the curbs here at a couple of areas. There's quite a lot of pressure on the tyres as well through those very quick sections like Blanchimont, but those curbs, they certainly could be another reason for a puncture, as well as debris on circuit or other reasons. It's certainly not the heat this weekend. That's definitely not going to be the case. It's only 22 degrees the track temperature, where we've been the times this year where we've been 35, 40 degrees, 50 degrees track temperature. Air temperature is 17 degrees, and it's very humid, 75% humidity, which suggests rain might be on the way. I said about the 94% chance of rain on Saturday. There's also a 30-odd% chance of thunderstorms. I think it's 39% chance of thunderstorms. Just what we needed after all the fog at the Nürburgring. Well, it's like this across much of Europe this weekend, the weather. Yet another challenge for the drivers and teams in particular to try and deal with. So following now Max Buch, who did almost the full season last year in the DTM, 29-year-old from Rheinbeck in North Germany. Subbed for Gary Paffett, who was never able to race last year in the end. He's another former Blancpain GT Series champion, and Sheldon van der Linde, Mr. Consistent, puts in another really good lap there, 2:18.89. Like a pretty long run here, but they're all good laps, which is encouraging come dry race conditions. He's been pretty good at qualifying so far this year as well, though, Sheldon. It's not just been about the race results, the podiums, the race wins. He's been good in qualifying trim as well, Sheldon. He's averaged 7th on the grid because he was the first driver to get pole position twice this season, by qualifying on pole position at least, because there was no qualifying for race 1. That was just on championship position. So Mirko Bortolotti technically became the first double pole sitter of the year, but it wasn't through qualifying at Nürburgring. It was just based on championship positions. But Sheldon then on Sunday did become the first driver to genuinely qualify on pole position twice this season, following on his pole from the Lausitz Ring. In fact, both weekends he's got pole. He's been on the front row of the grid in the other race as well. So he's averaged 7th on the grid. He's also picked up 8 championship points through qualifying this year, which is more than anybody else. Mirko Bortolotti, I guess unsurprisingly, is second in the championship, is pretty close to him. He's picked up 7 bonus points so far this season from qualifying in the top 3. 3 points for pole, 2 points if you qualify second, and a point for third. And another good qualifier, even though the races haven't often gone according to plan, has been Felipe Fraga, who's qualified on pole once this year. He's averaged 10th on the grid, and he's picked up 6 championship points through qualifying as well, which are certainly going to make a difference at the end of the season. Certainly did last season. Lots of points picked up by the real front runners in qualifying in 2021. And when the championship is as close as it was last year, well, just proves the point. About every point of the fastest lap points, all these bonus points are worth going for if you get the chance to do so, given that last year's championship title was won by just 3 points at the end of 16 races. Following Lucas Auer on his latest lap then, which is a pretty decent one. He didn't start great. The middle sector's been good, 63.1. It's not an absolute best, it's not a personal best, but he's thereabouts with that. So I think it's going to be a tidy lap this from Lukey, with a 2:18.250 being his best so far. He's only got to find 0.02 of a second to get ahead of Dennis Olsen's Porsche in terms of time. Dennis's teammate Lawrence Ventura has got the blue and white Mercedes of Arjun Maini breathing down his neck at the moment as the pair make their way through the chicane and heads over the line. And it was another good lap from Lucas Auer. It's a 2:18.9, but it's not his best. But I think 2:18s on a long run is pretty decent. Lost out a bit towards the end of the lap. A few drivers have just gone back out on track. René Rast is 12th at the moment. Lucas Stoltz, the Nürburgring race winner, has just rejoined. He's 14th quickest. Ricardo Feller's been fairly quiet today in terms of out-and-out lap times, hasn't he? Where was he in the... look at that. Fraga takes to the curb. You can see the car really rattles over those curbs. That's hard work on the tyres as well. But Ricardo Feller was only 24th quickest in free practice 1, and at the moment he's only 19th. So a bit of head scratching there, or maybe again they're just working towards the race setup and not too worried about qualifying, given that it's probably going to be in different conditions. Everybody's been out. Lots of drivers have done 11, 12 or 13 laps now. The fewest laps has been done by Tommy Preining at 10. But it's been a pretty busy session. Anybody out there doing 3 or 4 laps, which you see sometimes. Oof, attacking the curbs just to try and get through. Eau Rouge Radion in the Ferrari was Felipe Fraga. Kept it flat though, just about. Down the Kemmel Straight he goes and heads off towards the heavy braking zone that will take him into Le Com, as we watch Esteban Moot now, who is more than two-thirds of the way around the lap. Exits Stavelot and start to hit this fast section. You're flat out in 4th gear, up to 5th, up to 6th, absolutely flat through Blanchimont. Right at the curbs there for Esteban. Full commitment. This is his best lap of the session so far. I think it's René Rast ahead, but he's not going to hold him up here before he gets to the finish line of this lap, which is shortly out of the corner. 2nd, 3rd gear, 4th gear, over the line, and 6th place for Esteban. Really good lap and an absolute best 3rd sector. 5 minutes to go. This is more or less when it started to rain at the end of free practice 1, with 5 minutes to go, or just under, and it's looking really dark above now, looking out of the commentary box window. It's like somebody switched the lights off. It's gone really, really dark. It's much darker than the TV pictures would have you believe. So, really good lap that from Esteban with a 2:18.333 in the Volkenhorst BMW. Puts him on a very similar pace to Preining just in front of him, and Sheldon van der Linde just behind him. They're all very evenly matched as we watch Lucas Stoltz going for his best lap of the session so far. 62.51, a personal best through this first sector, and a fairly steady first sector as well, 39.59. So this should put him up the order somewhat. He's 16th at the moment, could be in the top 10 with this if the last sector was good. It's even better than that. He's second because he does an personal best final sector as well to go second. And the HRT Mercedes 2:18.104. He's only 32 thousandths of a second behind Laurens Vanthoor now. So it's Porsche from Mercedes, from Audi, the top three, with Muller was quickest earlier on in third place. Qualifying tight runs here, though, aren't they? Because Preining is going for it now as well. Personal best in sector 1 and 2. Eng, likewise. He's a bit slow in the second sector, though. And Esteban Mutlak, 39.26 is a really, really good first sector time. Not very far away from the absolute best. So Esteban pulling out all the stops here. It's a quiet season so far, but it might just about to be springing into life here in his home race at Spa. There's been changes at the top of the times here, I reckon, though, because others are going quick, and Preining goes quickest of all in the Q's Team Bernhard Porsche, 2:17.786. That's the quickest lap of the day so far. Quicker than anything in free practice one. Eng's gone third quickest as well by setting the absolute best final sector of the lap. Esteban Moot, personal best in the second sector as well. He's on for a great lap. Nico Muller doesn't improve. He's down to 5th place now. But what about Esteban Moot? He's slipped back to 8th place, but he ain't going to be 8th for long because this is a really good lap. You're on board with him now. Coming up towards the line. Where is this one going to put him? Through he will go. 8th quickest, not quite there. Lost out in the final sector. He's still following René Rast. So René must be going pretty quickly as well. 15th, 2:19.2 for him. So Preining quickest, Vanthoor second, Eng third, Stoltz fourth, Muller fifth, Olsen in the pits in 6th place. Stoltz on another improved lap here, though, potentially. And HRT Mercedes, that was Roll finishing going a bit deep into the chicane. There is Marco Wittmann following him in the BMW. Pretty shortly towards the chicane will be coming the yellow Mercedes of Lucas Stoltz. 11th place at the moment for Marco Wittmann, no improvement there. And Tommy Preining, good first sector. Right, this should be good for Stoltz. About to come out of the chicane. He's 4th at the moment. It's going to be another tidy lap. Better or slower? Higher up the order or lower down or the same? Higher. Second at 2:18.030. Oh, look at that. The other side of the circuit, the rain has suddenly started to come. That's over at Rivage, which is pretty much the polar opposite side of the circuit where I am. Not raining yet, but it's coming. Over there, absolutely belting it down with less than 2 minutes to go. And they are going to have to take these cars very, very gingerly back to the pit lane. Don't damage them now. The mechanics will be just holding their breath. We don't want a late night fixing the cars. Please just bring it home. Well, that just shows you this spread of the circuit here, how it can be completely different on one side of the circuit than it is on the other. I'm overlooking the start-finish line, and the track is bone dry. And what? A kilometre and a half away from me,
So we're doing a lap on where?
chucking it down.
Negative. Only 1 minute to go. Only 1 minute to go.
Yeah. That was Mirko Bortolotti saying, can we go out again? Put some wets on. This might be useful for tomorrow. But it's come just a bit too late. There's no point because there's less than a minute to go. By the time you've got you out there on wets, flag's going to be out. You're not going to learn anything. They would have quite liked 10 or 15 minutes of this, I think, looking ahead to tomorrow. But as it is, if it is wet, and the signs are that it will be, but you know what predicting the weather is like? Difficult, especially around here. But if it is wet, they're going to go into that qualifying session tomorrow absolutely cold. They're not going to have any data to fall back on. Right, here's the onboard. You see the rain starting to come, and then suddenly, look, it unleashes proper cloudburst, and Mirko did well to just about keep it. I mean, he didn't keep it on the road, but it could have been disastrous. He kept it off the grass, didn't he? Car just wouldn't turn in. No grip on the slick tyres. It's like dancing on ice. And it's almost flooded over there. It has started to rain over here now, but nowhere near as much as over there. The track's only just started to get damp over there. It's almost flooded. A proper heavy cloudburst. We were walking from the car park to the media centre earlier. A colleague of mine almost forgot his coat and said, I know it's not raining now, but bring your coat because I think we might be getting some rain later on. It is absolutely throwing it down now. It almost looks like hail. It's that thick, the rain. So we are in for one of those challenging weekends, I think. There's going to be some unusual results if the weather plays its part this weekend, and probably some really, really interesting races. But that's the Spa that you might have to get used to tomorrow, because I think there's more of this on the way. But before it started to rain, Tommy Preining, look, that mega lap, 2 minutes 17.786. He is a real talent. And by a quarter of a second, well, he'll be hoping for dry conditions, I think, because he knows the car is quick in the dry. I'm pretty sure he'll be okay in the wet as well, though. So the cars, the drivers, make their way very, very cautiously back towards the pit lane. And the session at an end anyway. The bits of bodywork on the circuit, but apart from understeering and going down the escape routes and using the runoff area, I don't think anybody's had a big drama, which is testament to the skill of these drivers, because 550 plus horsepower, slick tyres and zero grip, and actually zero visibility, I would imagine, at the moment as well. How they managed to do that is real, genuine talent and skill. So there's Mirko Bortolotti. He was probably just about the worst place you could be where that rain just started to come down. The end of the fastest part of the course. 260 plus kilometres an hour at the end of the Kemble Straight. And then suddenly it was like somebody turned the shower on, wasn't it? He couldn't get the car turned in, but could have been so much worse. So well done, Mirko. Good catch that was. And in he comes. And the teams will be uber keen to get the cars under the cover of the garages as quickly as possible. And probably, as I say, just a little bit of relief as they see their cars come back without any major bodywork damage. They'll have to work hard, as always, to get the cars prepped. They'll check every single detail of the cars, every nut, every bolt. But at least they won't have to fix anything tonight and work through the night to do that, which could have easily been the case, that treacherous conditions that we saw. So from a very wet end to the session, the dry just before all that happened, Thomas Preining with that mega lap, 2 minutes 17.78 seconds. Lucas Stoltz in second place. Lawrence Van Toor, good day for him, first and third in the two sessions. Philip Eng fourth, Nico Muller fifth, Dennis Olsen sixth, Lucas Auer, Esteban Moot, who was really quick at the end of the session, Sheldon van der Linde and Maro Engel in the top 10. And then Marco Wittmann and Maximilian Gotz both having pretty good days, 11th and 12th positions. So that concludes Friday's action from a very wet Spa-Francorchamps. What will the weather bring tomorrow? We will find out when we find out. Anybody's guess, but what I can tell you, it's going to be a fascinating day. From me, Chris Hartley, and the team at Spa, thanks for watching. Catch up with us tomorrow for race day 1. Bye for now.